नमस्ते सबैजनालाई तपाईलाई फेरि स्वागत छ हाम्रो नयाँ एपिसोडमा इको साथी र दिगो प्रणाली मिलेर यो एपिसोडमा हामी आज डाफे र साथसाथै साथ अर्गनाइजेसनसँग पनि हामी कुराकानी गर्नेछौँ. We are going to talk a lot about values, about the expectations we have for our future, and most importantly, what does it mean to run an eco business with a kind heart as well. So स्वागत गरौँ मिस कृतिश्मा कार्कीज्यूलाई. यहाँलाई धेरै धेरै स्वागत छ.
Thank you so much, Richa.
Thank you. So Danfe, Danfe I love Danfe products. In fact, I'm wearing one right now, very proudly. Danfe, it's a store which is in Samsikil, established in 2017. But behind it as well, there is this beautiful organization called SAATH, which was established in 2006. So we would love to know the dynamics between them and how they came about.
So SAATH को चाहिँ हामीले जहिले पनि introduction दिँदाखेरि चाहिँ so we're an NGO and I think normally नेपालमा चाहिँ अब NGO को चाहिँ the set identity is more like you work with a lot of donors and like-minded organizations, you bring in fund, you execute the fund, you're like trying to create an impact. So we did that for a very long period of time, and what we realized, and we always carried this vision where as an organization, yes, our job is to make use of the fund and everything, but at the same time, how about also introducing a concept where, and also an approach where maybe as an organization we're also able to make use of the local resources and generate some sort of income. So त्यो गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ like right after the earthquake in 2015, so we came up with a project called Danfe at that time, but now it's called Achaar. So त्यसले चाहिँ के गर्यो भने बहिनीहरूलाई from marginalized community हामीले training दिन्थ्यौँ. So त्यो training दिएपछि normally what happens is like गाउँमा काम गर्दाखेरि you give them training, but somewhere down the lane the skill also does not get to like get exposed or manifest in its own ways. So Danfe picture मा कसरी आउँछ भने त्यो skill लाई चाहिँ long run मा to also change it into employment opportunity create गर्नको लागि चाहिँ हामीले Danfe establish गर्यौँ in 2017. So that's like to go a little deeper on that. So Danfe को काम भनेको चाहिँ SAATH को beneficiaries हरूलाई employment दिने भन्ने साथसाथै चाहिँ हामीले जति पनि revenue र हामीले profit generate गर्छ that will be reinjected in these communities through SAATH. So that's the model that we've created.
Beautiful. So I think that beautifully defines what social entrepreneurship is about, and I would love to hear your journey as how did you decide to become one?
It was not a very deliberate म यस्तै गर्छु यस्तै हुन्छु भन्दा पनि like I think when I chose to study social work back then, so it wasn't like म यस्तो गर्छु उस्तो गर्छु हैन, it just happened with the flow. But I think as you become part of it, it also helps you get that catch that sense of direction about who you want to become in the long run. So I think those experiences, the every little encounters that you have with people and the surroundings, it kind of, I think, unravel हुन्छ कि बिस्तारै. Oh, this is the journey that I am in for, भनेर. So I think that happened to me and a lot of my friends at that time. हामी organization setting मा काम गर्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ we were motivated to establish an organization. So it was not a very thoughtful process where we're like, oh, we're going to run an organization, but it just happened over the period of time. अनि त्यो चाहिँ more social work मा as development practitioner, and I think the more you get into it, you'll develop the highs and lows of working and being a development worker पनि. So it has its own charm. It comes with like both pros and cons मा हुन्छ. But at the end of the day, I think what's really important is the vision that you carry as a development worker, because you know where you want to get there. And with being an entrepreneur, I think that was sort of a deliberate attempt, because SAATHma, we always wanted to create this value where we were, like I mentioned earlier, we wanted to make use of the resources and also develop an ecosystem where an NGO has this amazing model where you're also making money, and I think it's the most beautiful thing as a development worker I've experienced, and I think so far it's going good, but not reached there yet.
Okay, that's beautiful. And you studied abroad as well, and there are so many young Nepali people out there who also want to come back and do something beautiful, do a social project, as well as sustain lives and their own families as well. So, what pushed you to come here, and what are some skills? Like, how was it adjusting back here?
Um, I think how we narrate the story of like going abroad or coming back is absolute an individual's choice. So like if I have to speak for myself, I think I made that choice. Like I was there for like 4 or 5 years, and the purpose was met. You know, I went there for studies, and then if I had chosen to stay back, it would have been completely okay. I chose to come back because this is my comfort. You know, this is where home is to me, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who find home somewhere else, and it's completely fine. But having said that, I think social work पढेपछि अलिकति त्यो ल केही गरौँ न त भन्ने चाहिँ त्यो maybe that was the highlight for me to come back. But again, it wasn't like very planned because technically so हामीले अर्गनाइजेसन पहिले खोलिसकेको थियो. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ एउटा inclination that you know, we need to come back, and you know, we need to kind of rewire everything, because that was there was a little bit of gap at that time. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ फर्क्यो. Ani, I think अहिले झन् now we say that it's a global world. So sometimes like not necessary that being in Nepal you'll be do amazing thing in Nepal, right? Sometimes you can be elsewhere and do the same thing for your country. But having said that, I think we also mindfully need a generation of like young people who needs to be in the country and you know bring about I think a lot of improvements, a lot of areas to work on. So there's a lot of things to be done, but I don't think it's wise to put everybody on the spot that you have to. I think it's a deliberate choice that we make as an individual.
That's beautifully said. And definitely it's, again, like not a compulsion because everyone has different career paths. And, you know, if you have the inclination to come back, then it's really beautiful. And there are so many things that can be done. यतै नेपालमा पनि केही गर्न सक्छौँ. So तपाईँको साथको organizationमा चाहिँ there's projects in Janakpur as well, and it focuses on a lot of marginalized group. And you've always been very vocal about so many different communities and their needs. So what pushed you, I would say? Yeah.
Like with SAATH, I think in 2015 मा चाहिँ हामीले जब यो earthquake affected area मा, so even as a development worker, our base was mostly in Kathmandu, but we never experienced going out of Kathmandu and seeing the real Nepal. So the earthquake को बेलामा चाहिँ अब सिन्धुपाल्चोक भनेको like हामीले जहिले भन्दाखेरि it's just 3 hours drive, right? It's 3 hours is nothing. But once you get there, and like after 3 hours you end up going to other villages which is like further away, like an hour or 2 hours away, it's so different. And that was like an eye-opening to our team members at that time, because हामीले चाहिँ अब कतिजना काठमाडौँमा बसे मान्छेले चाहिँ काठमाडौँलाई नै नेपाल भन्छ नि. We've not seen the real Nepal that's outside of Kathmandu. And I think that त्यो अनि मैले जहिले भन्दाखेरि it's like near yet far के, because 3 hours is nothing, but once you get there, it's a different world. When I say it's a different world, I don't mean to say, you know, it's not nice. All I mean to say is, you know, it's different in ways of infrastructure, accessibility, healthcare, education. So there's a lot of things that's still pending, and, you know, like maybe it's a work in progress. So त्यो के रहेछ भने 3 घण्टा टाढा यति छ भने नेपालको अरू ठाउँमा त झन् कति धेरै इस्युजहरू होला जुनलाई चाहिँ हामी जस्तो अर्गनाइजेसनले चाहिँ हामीले त्यसलाई हेर्नुपर्छ. So सिन्धुपाल्चोक was technically an eye-opening experience for us, where one, we knew that a lot of girls and women were not exposed to a lot of things, because for me as a woman, my strength lies in the fact that I can earn my own living. And that's very important for every woman in this country, right? So त्यो गर्नको लागि skill development is very important, but at the same time employment is also important. So सिन्धुपाल्चोकमा गरिसकेपछि चाहिँ we took that to province 2, जहाँ चाहिँ, so when you talk about province 2, the community that we're working on is just 6 to 7 hours drive from here. It's on the main road, you know, it's connected through highways and everything. But once you get there, and my first time experience मा चाहिँ we technically went there thinking that we could bring the young girls and women back to Kathmandu to train them. But once we got there, we realized that it's so different, and it wouldn't be wise enough to bring the girls back to Kathmandu because it's a very different cultural setting. I think the way people perceive things there and here is so different. So we decided to take the training to Dhanushadam. So that's how we started the project in those communities.
And I think Dafe's clothes are so beautiful, firstly because of the natural fibers, but also because of the Mithila art design. And you could have taught them any form of art, but you chose to teach them their local art. And Mithila art is very beautiful, and I would love to hear a lot more about it and what it means to the community out there.
So the interesting thing was, Janakpur jada feri चाहिँ, so that was not my first time. Like my first time was back in, I don't know when, it was a long time back. So त्यतिखेर र त्यसपछि जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ मेरो दिमागमा चाहिँ जनकपुर भन्ने बित्तिकै I could see Mithila art everywhere, and that was not the case. So अहिले चाहिँ छ, you'll see a lot of artwork here and there, but 2019 मा एकदम थोरै थियो. So मैले जसरी Mithila art लाई चाहिँ त्यो region लाई identify गरेको थिएँ, it was different. So we thought त्यहाँ चाहिँ कतिजना women र girlsमा चाहिँ त्यो form of art pass on भइरहेछ, because I think art is something that you have it with you, and then you need to give it to somebody else so that you're able to keep on continuing those beautiful artworks. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ हामीले त्यहाँ मुसर community, which is actually falls on the very bottom line हाम्रो उसमा चाहिँ हैन, so they're very marginalized, they don't have a lot of access to healthcare or education. So हामीले त्यो womenहरूलाई train गराउनुको main कारण भनेको चाहिँ, one, so that they learn the art, and two, so that they're able to monetize the art form. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ हामीले सुरु गर्यौं. But having said that, it does come up with a lot of challenges. So it's not like our work is done there. So we see it more as our work has just started. So I think Nepalमा Mithila art जस्तै अरु कति धेरै art form or skills or craftsmanship छ जुन चाहिँ over the period of time there are a lot of chances that it'll just perish away, okay? Because it's not been handed down to next generation, because when you don't see the economic prospect in those art form or skills, people would question like, why do I need to learn it? I can learn it because out of luxury, but every people don't have that. So त्यसको हिसाबले चाहिँ हामीले त्यसलाई अलिकति monetize गर्नुपर्छ, अलिकति commercialize गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने हिसाबले चाहिँ we kind of merge the art form into our clothing to bring it in the mainstream fashion. Maybe not many people or everybody would love the idea of bringing art form into changing its like the dynamics and bringing in a different way, but how we see it is also the fact that instead of letting it just like evaporate somewhere, we're also able to bring it back into mainstream. So
that's really cool. So Mithila art is very eco-friendly as well. They use natural dyes, and it has been going on for a long time. So let's talk a lot about the clothing process, a little bit about the dyes, and about fabrics as well.
Like before I start saying that it's very eco-friendly, so how we see it, I think like with Danfe pani, like when you look at the history of Danfe, when we started back then in 2017, there was nothing about sustainability back then. We actually, it's not that we didn't care, we just did not bring it on the table. We were just making clothes. That's how we started. And just like 2 years back, 2 वर्ष अगाडि चाहिँ, like we made this deliberate effort to change our course of direction to go more sustainable. So there was one point I remember, I'm just trying to build up a story here. So सुरुमा हामीले, when we started to get this collection, so I told the production unit that everything has to be sustainable, everything has to be natural. We tried, and it was a disaster because कस्तो हुँदो रहेछ भने, if you push yourself too hard on anything, there are chances that you might give up on the way. Okay? So that's something that we realized over the period of time. So what we actually did was, sustainability is the goal, but in order for us to reach there, I think it's take it more as work in progress. So like for example, like it's so difficult for us to change our habit, which is completely in our hands, right? Like if I ask like Shricha, like maybe you shouldn't be doing that, maybe you listen to me, but it will take a while for you to process all these things, right? So sustainability लाई पनि अलिकति long run मा चाहिँ if we really wanted to sustain, so what we realize is just be a little chill and cool about it, okay? Rather than like एकदम force गर्नु भन्दा पनि. So मिथिला आर्टको कुरा गर्दाखेरि yes, initially when the art form started, they were using a lot of natural colors and all, but now it's been replaced with a lot of commercial dyes and colors. So हाम्रोमा गर्ने पनि 100% natural चाहिँ छैन कलरहरू, but अहिले नै we don't want to change everything. Like first attempt, our effort is to bring back the art form. Maybe like you said, over the period of time we can go back to using natural colors. So आर्टको केसमा चाहिँ त्यो छ भने with clothing we made the attempt and effort to go for ESO-free dye, so which is approved by EU, so it does less harm or no harm to the environment, and we're also doing sometimes the natural dyes. So I think त्यो बिस्तारै त्यो चेन्जेसहरू चाहिँ अलिकति टाइम दिनुपर्छ, अनि I think we'll get there someday.
Yeah. हामीले चाहिँ जहिले पनि केही इन्भाइरोमेन्टको लाइक ट्राइङ टु बिल्ड अ जिरो वेस्ट लाइफस्टाइल or प्लास्टिक फ्री लाइफस्टाइलमा वी टेन टु टेक अ लट अफ प्रेसर पनि कि ओके द स्विच निड्स टु ह्यापन, अनि even when you get one plastic straw you feel so guilty about it. Again, it's not sustainable in itself, that you're tiring yourself out, and then you're setting yourself up for failure. So you're pointing out, and एकदमै important, the word leniency हुनुपर्छ in whatever we do, because it's important to be gentle as the fabrics are of your of Danfe as well. And I believe it's made out of bamboo, and there are other materials too. So what is the process of it?
So हाम्रो चाहिँ त्यही अघि भने जस्तै फर्स्टमा चाहिँ we thought everything could be natural, so we were running after finding zipper which would be natural. It's impossible, right?
Yeah.
So we were like, no, this is not, I don't think it's sustainable. Like you said, it was very tiring for us. So हामीले चाहिँ के गर्यो भने बिस्तारै चेन्जेसहरू लिएर आउनु पर्छ, because what's really important for us to is also understand the context we're at. So maybe at that time when we decided to go all 100% sustainable and natural, maybe we were trying to copy what was out there in some European countries. So that's what we did, right? Even there it's so difficult. So त्यहाँ पनि त it's a very I think very nominal people who are into zero waste and sustainable fashion. So यहाँ चाहिँ के हुनुपर्छ भने नेपालको कुरामा I see all these pop-ins every time that we are so sustainable by nature. हैन हामीले त कति बेलामा त मेरो घरमा my mother, I don't think I've seen her throw any like boxes or bottles. Everything is being hoarded, and she'll be like, at one point of time I'm going to use that. So we have it in us, but I think त्यसलाई thoughtfully process चाहिँ गर्दै जानुपर्छ. So हामीले bambooबाट सुरु गऱ्यौँ. So हामीले बिस्तारै bamboo सँगसँगै चाहिँ we're trying to use like hemp, अल्लोहरू पनि गरिरहेछौँ. अनि यसमा हाम्रो comfort र convenience चाहिँ instead of choosing for like commercial dye, we chose ESO-free dye. So त्यो गर्ने बित्तिकै चाहिँ के हुन्छ भने त्यहाँ अलिकति value addition को कामहरू पनि हुन्छ. So अहिले हामीले Danfe-लाई introduce गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ we stop pitching ourselves as sustainable brand, because त्यो भन्ने बित्तिकै so we sat and then we ask ourselves how sustainable are we, because हामीले जति अहिले भन्छ हैन म यस्तो छु हैन हामीलाई थाहा छ inside story, it's very difficult. Okay, even if you say natural dyes, त्यसमा पनि केही न केही हुन सक्छ. The chances are, I'm not saying भइ नै रहेछ भन्ने हैन, but the chances are केही न केही त्यहाँ भइरा हुन्छ. So त्यो भएपछि चाहिँ I think as a brand, as a team members, you're putting too much stress on yourselves, and the moment you do that, you put the same amount of stress and expectations from your clients to understand all these things. Okay? So हामीले यसलाई चाहिँ, for example, I think it's completely okay if people want to pair cool Danfe top with their old jeans or the pair of trousers they already have. It's okay. Okay? So it's not like you have to purchase everything that's sustainable. Maybe our effort should be durability is also sustainability नि त हैन. कतिवटा सामान चाहिँ मेरो literally I have stuffs in my closet that's I don't know 15 years, maybe 20 years, I don't know. So त्यो कुरा, maybe it's not made out of bamboo, but if I have continued using those wardrobes for this long period of time भनेपछि I have taken that time and effort to wear it, to preserve it नि त सो त्यो कुराले पनि हामीले डिफाइन चाहिँ गर्नुपर्छ होला कि सो I'm not completely saying use everything in anything त्यो mindfulness चाहिन्छ but at the same time don't put so much pressure on yourself that म यस्तै गर्छु कि it's too much I think there's enough pressure in the world so यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति प्रोग्रेसनमा राख्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ
one step at a time.
Of course.
So you mentioned using bamboo, aloe, hemp. So do we have a farm here in Nepal, or where does the source material come from?
Like नेपालमा धेरै पाउँछ पनि natural fibers-हरु. However, we're still, I think, faced with a few challenges where जुन चाहिँ जस्तै अब example मैले लाइरहेको bamboo चाहिँ sadly it's not entirely manufactured in Nepal like processing को कुरा गर्दा फेरि yarn बाहिरबाट आउँछ त्यो कुरालाई चाहिँ यहाँ फ्याक्ट्रीजहरुमा चाहिँ weave गर्छ but we're also as a brand we're also trying to make this conscious effort where we're also seeing that can we also start manufacturing our own textiles. I think it's a very big shot, of course, but that would be something that we would work on. Maybe it will take, I don't know, like a decade or 2 decades, but हामीले अहिले start गर्यो भने अरु कसैले catch up गर्न सक्छ होला because normally हामी कति ठाउँमा चाहिँ we're trying to go and ask people about bamboo fabrics and बन्न मिल्छ कि मिल्दैन. So a lot of times we hear that people have tried to an extent and not been very successful. So we're also trying to tie up with SAATH and how we can pitch in like project ideas जस्तै गर्दा फेरि चाहिँ we can see maybe research is lacking because end game मा चाहिँ what's also important is for example when people ask like why are Nepali products expensive a lot of times all the raw materials is coming from elsewhere who is already your competitor so उनीहरुसँग already raw material हुन्छ नेपालको केसमा चाहिँ you're bringing all those raw materials and you're making similar products that's why the price point is kind of expensive. So हाम्रो चाहिँ like मैले भन्दा फेरि it's a very big but we can definitely try maybe with just like research बाट पनि start गर्न सक्छ to check the viability of whether you can make the fabrics पनि so त्यो भनेको चाहिँ के हुन सक्छ भने Nepal has potential for a lot of things हाम्रो यो land topography wise हैन यो high altitude मा फेरि यो भएको यो natural हरुको there's a very different demand and I don't think we've understood that very wholly to invest a lot of time and I hope that like organizations and companies like ours and also like government interventions and development side बाट पनि यो चाहिँ अलिकति collaborative effort हुनुपर्छ अनि त्यो भयो भने maybe at one day like we'll get there.
Okay. And so तपाईले भन्नुभयो like the idea of slow fashion but you touched up a bit on that. So slow fashion still can be beautiful, still can be like trendy, you can still stay up to date on fashion. When Danfe makes its clothes, its designs are also targeted towards being for a timeless design. So how do you see sustainable fashion like or I would say slow fashion slowly like evolve in the coming years?
मेरो personal observation मा चाहिँ like when you talk about fashion like are we already putting the potential client into boxes like these are my customers these are not right because I think with slow fashion there's always an issue like Danfe ko lagi pani I keep on hearing people say that oh it's a little expensive and it's I wouldn't completely shut it down saying that no we're not I would say we're trying to be reasonable but is it affordable by everybody of course it's not so I think end goal of slow fashion should also be about accessibility so just because I have money I can choose to like invest in slow fashion and because I don't have money I'm compelled to invest on fast fashion so I think what's really important and what Danfe is trying to do I wouldn't say we've gotten there yet is to bring back work on the pricing and like how we can bring it to a bigger mass does not mean you're mass producing your clothes but like the minute somebody enters Danfe you shouldn't be like oh I can't afford it or I can't afford it right it should be more about whether you want to buy the products or not so that's the attempt and that's the goal because now के हुन्छ नि so fashion will be too slow as in the reach को हिसाबले चाहिँ it shouldn't be more about trend जस्तै अहिले चाहिँ I'm sorry but it's become like oh I go for slow fashion but the fact that you can afford it maybe makes you get that choice, but there are a lot of people who can't. So we can't force people to buy just
Exactly.
because we need to promote slow fashion. So I think accessibility is very important. And I think like brand like ours, again, it's super difficult because when you have to do everything in Nepal, labor, resources, and it's not very easy.
Yeah.
It comes with a lot of challenges, but I think the end goal for Danfe is to make it accessible to people. So
Yeah. And slow fashion isn't just about buying a sustainable product or something that lasts long. It's also so much about using what you already have. And I think that's the biggest piece of the puzzle when it comes to slow fashion.
of course.
And so when we're like what is the process of upcycling and recycling? Like what are some differences and how it does the whole process take part in Dafe's work as well?
So डाफेमा चाहिँ हामीले अहिले के गरिरहेछ भने सो इट्स नट अल लाइक जिरो वेस्टको हामी प्रडक्ट बनाउने चाहिँ होइन सो वाट आवर अटेम्प्ट हेज बिन सो फार इज दिस इज अ भेरी कन्सियस एफर्ट द्याट वी हेभ अन्डरटेकन सो हाम्रो जति पनि कन्जम्सन भइरहेको हुन्छ जस्तै अब यही फ्याब्रिक नै होइन सो देयर इज लट अफ ब्याम्बो हामीले कन्ज्युम गरिरहेको हुन्छ नि त्यो लेफ्ट ओभर फ्याब्रिक्सहरू बाँकी हुन्छ सो नर्मली वाट ह्यापन्स इज लेफ्ट ओभर फ्याब्रिक्स यु जस्ट डम्प इट समवेयर एन्ड द्याट्स अल्सो क्रिएटिङ अनदर फर्म अफ वेस्ट सो हामीले चाहिँ के गरिरहेछ भने we've created a very small sorting unit. When it's a unit, it's one person. अनि सो त्यहाँ चाहिँ के हुन्छ नि जति पनि हाम्रो कन्ज्युम भइरहेको हुन्छ सो त्यसलाई चाहिँ कलर कोअर्डिनेसन वाइज अनि फ्याब्रिकको टाइप वाइज चाहिँ त्यसलाई सेग्रिगेट गर्छ अस्मिताले सो त्यो गरिसकेपछि चाहिँ बिकज वेयर अल्सो वर्किङ इन धनुषा धाम हामीले त्यो चाहिँ एभ्री मन्थ र एभ्री 2 मन्थ्समा एकचोटि चाहिँ वी सेन्ड अल दोज फ्याब्रिक त्यसलाई वेस्ट नै भनौँ अहिले होइन सो त्यो पठाउँछ अनि सो वेयर वर्किङ विथ हाम्रो इन हाउस डिजाइनर मनिषा सो जहाँ चाहिँ हामीले बसेर वेयर ट्राइङ टु क्रिएट दिज कुल आउटफिट्स अर ब्याग्स अर सम अदर प्रडक्ट्स विच क्यान बी brought back to life के so त्यो जुन piece of fabricलाई चाहिँ for example like last year we came up with this like really beautiful I think it's called blazer so जुन चाहिँ patchwork थियो कि अनि सो त्यो भएपछि के हुन्छ भने डाफेको कन्सियस एफर्ट भनेको रादर देन सेङ द्याट वी डु दिस अर वी डु द्याट वी जस्ट ट्राइङ टु टेक केयर अफ द मेस द्याट वी क्रिएट भनौँ न विच इज वेस्ट फ्याब्रिक इन दिस केस सो त्यो गरेपछि चाहिँ हाम्रो जस्तो एन्टरप्राइजले चाहिँ के गर्न सक्छ भने त्यो वेस्ट त टेक्निकली डम्पस्टरमा गएर एन्ड हुन्थ्यो भने we've been able to use it okay? So that also sends a very good message. It's not easy. So when you see all those patched jackets and all, it's a lot of hard work because there's like proper त्यो सेपमा साइजमा काटेर त्यसलाई आइरन गरेर स्टिच गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ सो द्याट्स हाउ द डिजाइनिङ प्रोसेस अल्सो इन्भल्भ्स तर के हुन्छ इट ब्रिङ्स द फ्याब्रिक वेस्ट ब्याक टु लाइफ के सो त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो स्मल वेजको हाम्रो एफर्ट हो बट डाउन द लेन चाहिँ वाट वी रियली वान्ट टु डु इज वर्क विथ डिफ्रेन्ट एन्टरप्राइजेस लाइक आवर्स सो फर इक्जाम्पल सबैजनाकोमा त त्यो युनिट हुँदैन सो त्यो भयो भने चाहिँ मेबी एट वान पोइन्ट अफ टाइम Danfe is also able to create a different line of products which is absolutely zero waste products okay? So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ and then we have a lot of inspirations from other brands who are already doing it so that's the that's also in the pipeline.
I've seen the jacket. This is the orange jacket. Yeah, it's so pretty. What's a home without homemade achar? This episode was sponsored by Achaar Ghar, handmade by the renowned Pickle Lady of Nepal, Hajuri Bista. This achar is one of its own kind. It's delicious, and I bet you want to try it out already. So, like when I'm talking to you, I realize how thoughtful you are about every single detail, especially about you're very sensitive about every community that you're working with, and that is so important, and it's coming out from the heart. So I really appreciate that, and I would love to hear like what are some skills that we need when we're working with different people, different communities. What are some important skills?
I don't think we come with like a set package about who we become later. I think it's a lot to do with socialization and upbringing. I think you learn a lot from people that you watch while you grow up and things that you see or things that you would hope to unsee. I think you learn from that a lot too. So I think like my inspirations, like I always go back to my grandmother. She was very giving. She was one of the kind soul, and it wasn't like a like म मेरो नातिनीलाई सिकाउँछु भनेर दिएको भन्दा पनि I think I realized this very late in life that maybe my grandmother was there, for me to visualize things later in life. So I think you encounter so many people in your life who truly, it's not a very deliberate attempt, but you just meet maybe sometimes for a very short period of time and you take few things from them. So I think as a person, I think while growing up, those were the things at that time I didn't realize, but बिस्तारै मलाई त्यो कुराले चाहिँ काहीँ न काहीँ त्यसले मलाई अफेक्ट चाहिँ गरेको छ होला. And I don't know if we are born with a kind heart or not, but I think के हुन्छ भने जति हामी मान्छे भेट्छ नि, जति हाम्रो encounters-हरु हुन्छ, अनि sometimes you see access of things with some people, sometimes you see the opposite, and you feel like I think we all have that world in our head where everything is beautiful and perfect, and I think in the to strive for that, you start making an effort. Okay? So I don't want to say like we're here to change people, but I think a lot of times people have it in them already. It's just that sometimes they need that shake or a little bit of push. So we never say that we go to the community to change women or girls. Okay? I don't think it's the right thing to say. It's just that a lot of times you have it, but you never realize that you have it. हामीमै हुन्छ कति कुरा त्यो कहिले काहीँ आएर कसैले प्याट्ट भनेपछि चाहिँ you would think like, oh, okay, good things or bad things both. So त्यो गर्ने बेलामा चाहिँ and I think at the end of the day, there's a calmness of doing things your way पनि के, like you reach home or you just settle in and you think about it, and the next day you wake up, you want to do better and bigger. Okay? So I think this aspirations is something that keeps you motivated. But having said that, it comes with a lot of challenges, and like there are times where I think I feel like this is not my thing, I want to give up, I'm done. I think त्यो कुराहरु एकदम धेरै हुन्छ development field, and I don't think we talk about it very often. Like I share it a lot of times with my colleagues and vice versa. So we say that, what are we doing? हामीले के गरिरहेछौ? Because a lot of times what happens is like you reach out to people and you want to bring about those impacts overnight. We're humans, we're restless, right? So भइदिहाले हुन्थ्यो हैन, हामीले दिएको कुरा लिइहाले हुन्थ्यो, त्यो कुरालाई इम्प्लिमेन्ट गरिहाले हुन्थ्यो भने हाम्रो त्यो होप हुन्छ नि त. अनि त्यसले गर्दा फेरि चाहिँ I think with being in this field, a lot of times we find ourselves in a place where we're so hopeless. We're like, why are we doing it if they're not appreciating? त्यो मान्छे हो नि त, सो कहिले काहीँ त्यो खोज्दो रहेछ कि हामीले गरेको कुरा अलिकति I don't want to say it out loud, but deep down you're thinking that हामीले गरेको कुरालाई appreciate गरोस्, not in words but in actions. But I think हामीले के realize गरेछ भने they come from a very different context where they don't realize that going to school or getting education is a valuable thing. They don't realize that making money is important. Okay? They don't realize that being violated is an offense and being part of it is also you being part of the game. So a lot of times you end up working in those communities. So maybe me as an individual, I find a lot of wrongs in those things, but when you actually place yourselves in those settings, we will realize over the period of time that they're in a complete different set of world. And in order for us to realize that, we need to respect that. So a lot of times there are moments where you unsee things. It's sad, but you can always talk about it with your colleague, but right then and there you feel so helpless. You see things happen, but all you can do is just be quiet about it. त्यो भनेको चाहिँ I think it's also respecting the cultural settings. Okay? I think as development work is very important, and that leads to a lot of frustration, but I think we chose to be part of that game. So it comes with both,
So beautiful. And I think as a woman and just as a human too, I really needed to hear that, because a lot of times we put pressure on ourselves to be a certain way, or even as an advocate too, it's a word should that we use often, when people really shouldn't be forcing themselves to do anything, even if it's a matter of the environment. It's something that should still be gentle and let it come out naturally, and I think that's really beautiful. So thank you for saying that.
Of course.
And there's a lot of power in silence as well. And, we don't always need to speak up. And I think that's beautiful. So you also mentioned that there were a lot of times that you wanted to give up, but you still kept going, which is just congratulations and thank you so much, because the world needs a lot of hearts like yours. So like, what kept you going and what did your team say? Like, we'd love to hear about your team, because behind every project there's a strong team, so we would love to learn about them as well.
I'm very proud of the team, and I think everybody who were part of the team at one point of time. So we've been a very long journey. So I do give credit to everybody who's contributed in some ways and added a value. Um, I think what's really important is to have this conversation, the openness. So हामी जहिले पनि अलिकति हामीलाई आफूलाई पोर्ट्रे गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ we're like this perfect beings into development field, so we know what we're doing, we know the game, but that's not always the case नि त. I think there's a lot of underlying frustrations that you need to speak up. So त्यो गर्ने बित्तिकै, conversations गर्ने बित्तिकै, like sometimes like I start my day, I go to the office and I start complaining to my colleague, and it's okay. I think to let out garnu is very important, because the minute you do that, so you're not putting too much pressure on yourself where you have to be certain ways or you need to keep on doing certain things. So त्यो भएपछि चाहिँ के हुँदो रहेछ भने जस्तै मैले कलिगलाई सेयर गरेँ भनेदेखि चाहिँ, for example, like it's we tell each other it's okay, त्यस्तो हुन्छ भन्ने कुरा हो नि त. So like frustrations, I'll just give you an example. So sometimes what happens is हामी जुन कम्युनिटीमा काम गर्छ, we're also trying to bring employment opportunity through Danfe, जुन चाहिँ SAATH को community हो. And trust me, you'll find people who will be like, I don't want to work. And like for me, it's very difficult to understand, right? I'm like, you have no work, you're not making any money, and we're giving you this opportunity to make some money and you don't want to work. So sometimes we just, like rave about it in the office, like, why are people the way they are? And then we need to tell each other that the reminders are, because we've been to community so many times, where everything is so chilled and relaxed, and sometimes I feel like we're an outsider. We're just going there and shaking things up and telling that you are in a problem, or there are so many underlying issues where maybe they're completely unaware of all these things. Okay? So त्यो reminder I think एकदम help गर्छ. And I think conversations and communication is very important, and openness. I don't think it's wise to just act perfect all the time. I think you need to let your imperfections and imperfectional thinking out sometimes, and I think that's really helpful.
So true. And if I may ask, I would love to learn a little bit more about your daily life, and I know you have a beautiful dog as well. So how does your day look like as a social entrepreneur?
It's kind of boring. It's not very interesting or exciting. I'm more like a in person, like I have my moments, I'm fun, this and that, but when I'm off, I'm really off. So like I think normally I wake up on time, and like before I used to hit the gym. Now I've become too lazy, which is not inspiring at all, but I still choose to do a bit of yoga and all. I'm a YouTube yoga. I don't know what that means, but I just watch YouTube and do a little bit of stretch here and there, because I think mental health, physical health is very important, and I hope this generation is able to learn that faster than I did. Ani त्यसपछि चाहिँ breakfast, or I tend to skip. I'm not actually motivating people, but that's how I am. And
it's relatable.
Yeah, and I think we have our lunch at office. So I think मलाई चाहिँ office जाने भनेपछि चाहिँ I think there are very few days where I feel it like a baggage. Okay? I love going to work, and I think that's been the best part of my journey. Okay? So it doesn't weigh me down thinking that I have to go to work until unless it's raining or it's like crazy, like hot and cold. But त्यो बाहेक चाहिँ I look forward to going to my work, and काममा चाहिँ त्यही हाम्रो daily routine and there's a lot of conversations and work and a lot of things, and I come back home and I live with my parents and I have the cutest dog. Her name is Puchu. And
How old is she?
She's 10. Yeah. And she's just getting there. And I think like I love spending time with my nieces. I have 2 now, and they're just too adorable. And I know that you know, like I have enough kids now. And I have a nephew, and I have like really cutest my मेरो साथीहरुको टन्नै बच्चाहरु छ, so I'm kind of handful. And because I don't want to be labeled, so I end up asking everybody to call me Chris. So for all the kids, it's just Chris. There's no auntie or anything. So they just call me Chris, and I think they give me a lot of hope. And I think like one thing, by just looking at them, I think what our generation or any other generation did or will be doing is to give something back or leave something beautiful for the next generation. So the बच्चाहरूलाई देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ I hope that I as an individual am able to give something and leave something that they would be proud of. And I think that's yeah.
And if you ask them what you do, like what do they tell usually? They might be really small, so
Oh, small, but आजकलको बच्चाहरू, they're kind of very smart. They will actually so I don't mind the oldest niece. Like sometimes there are times when I bring her to work, so she loves being to work. And then few times I got her on Sundays at work, and she was like, Chris, I want to come to your work every Sunday. I'm like, sorry, I can't do that. But I don't think they actually know what I do, but I'm sure they're proud in their own ways.
Yeah,
I hope so.
And I think they found, I don't want to use the word aunt, but they've definitely found a friend in you, it seems like.
Yeah. And I think vice
That's
versa,
beautiful.
like especially with the old one.
Yeah.
She's very thoughtful. You know, she's just like I love her. Yeah, she's the sweetest.
And so what are some future goals of Danfe and SAATH?
With SAATH, because हामी province 2 मा काम गर्यो, सिन्धुपाल्चोकमा काम गर्यो, so we really want to go to different parts of the country and venture out there. And so just like few times I went for like trekking and all, so I was like, oh, this is Nepal too. I mean, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but at the same time you kind of realize that it's such a different part of the country that we never thought existed. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ साथको चाहिँ, like we really want to reach out to a lot of women from different communities. And I think how Danfe comes into picture is जसरी हामीले मिथिला आर्टलाई इन्क्लुड गरेर हामीले मेन स्ट्रिम फ्यासनमा लिएर आएको जस्तै नेपालमा त कति धेरै भनौँ न आर्ट कल्चर कस्ट्युम्सहरू छ हैन. सो आई थिङ्क आवर अटेम्प्ट इज अल्सो टु गो बियोन्ड भनौँ न दाउरा सुरुवाल होइन नेपाली ढाकाको टोपी त्यो मात्र होइन नि त, त्यो पनि हो, अफकोर्स वी भेरी प्राउड अफ इट, बट त्यो बियोन्ड पनि आइम श्योर देयर सो मेनी अदर थिङ्स द्याट यु क्यान ब्रिङ इट टु मेन स्ट्रिम फ्यासन एन्ड मेबी रिइन्ट्रोड्युस इट इन वेज वेयर people from the other generation would be very open to you know like be part of it. So त्यो चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा एम हो भने अर्को डाफेको चाहिँ, so right now yes we're a local brand, but why not dream bigger. And so हाम्रो एम भनेको चाहिँ we want to go international. So not just like selling clothes, but we want to definitely establish Danfe as a international brand which represents lot of Nepali art and culture. So that's the end game. अनि अर्को कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ because Danfe is a social impact create गर्ने enterprise, so त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ हाम्रो जति पनि profit हुन्छ, so we set out our own endowment fund. So it's called Danfe Endowment Fund. So त्यसमा चाहिँ अहिले हाम्रो लगभग 1.5 करोड जति हामीले फन्ड रेज गरिसकेका छ. So our aim is to keep on increasing the revenue. So लास्टमा गएर चाहिँ त्यसको प्रफिटको चाहिँ इन्ट्रेस्ट आइरहन्छ. So त्यो इन्ट्रेस्ट चाहिँ we want to re-inject into the communities. So one project that we're really looking forward to is we really want to work on menstrual hygiene in all these areas. So एकदमै त्यो thoughtful process चाहिँ हैन, but we really want to start like distributing menstrual kit, because हामीले काम गर्दा रियलाइज गरेको काठमाडौँमा त कस्तो गाह्रो छ भने गाउँमा त एकदम गाह्रो छ. Like we can we can completely educate them and say that, oh, you need to use sanitary napkins, but are they able to afford it or not? That's the question. So अहिले हामीले गरिरहेको चाहिँ गर्न खोजिरहेको चाहिँ menstrual underwear. So we want to see how people would respond to it. We want to make sure that they are comfortable wearing it. We just don't want to randomly throw products at them. So त्यो चाहिँ बिस्तारै prototyping भयो भनेदेखि चाहिँ हाम्रो जति पनि profitबाट चाहिँ certain percentage would be going there.
And throughout your work, you've influenced so many women's lives, and I'm sure you've got to have, you got the chance to have great conversations, get to know them. And since 2006, I would love to hear a story of someone, and yeah, just their life story about like a member of SAATH maybe, or perhaps Danfe.
Someone who inspired me, or like
someone who inspired you,
or someone like that I've gotten opportunity to work with. I think instead of that, I think in my journey, so हाम्रो सिन्धुपाल्चोकको हामीले बहिनीहरूसँग काम गर्दाखेरि, so हामीले जति भन्छ नि सजिलोसँगले will give you the skill and I think you'll be better off, then you can do things on your own, but it's not actually the case ni ta. So there's this like lovely one of the beneficiary, her name is Lakshmi, so she's from Sindhupalchok. So she was, I don't remember कुन batch मा थियो, so उसले आयो, उसले ट्रेनिङहरु लियो हैन, अनि फेरि गाउँ गयो, अनि त्यहाँ गइसकेपछि चाहिँ like she started her own shop, because normally हाम्रो project end भएपछि चाहिँ like we hand over machines and the needed equipments and gears to establish a small scale enterprise. So हामी सिन्धुपाल्चोक जाँदाखेरि हामीले सोच्छ नि त मसिन दिएपछि पनि ल भयो हैन, अब उनीहरूले गरी खान्छ, टन्नै पैसा कमाउँछ, but it's so difficult for a very young girl, because she's literally, I keep on using this word, defying gravity, because as a woman we might have this idea about how everything comes in a silver platter, but it's so different for a lot of other women पनि नि त. So I think कतिजना women को लागि चाहिँ it might not be the case where it's accessible or सजिलो छ हैन. So what Lakshmi did was she went back to the community and she started this shop. अनि उसले त्यो shop run गर्नलाई, I'm sure there are a lot of hiccups that even we were unaware of, but she never gave up. अनि हामीले बीचमा चाहिँ उसलाई we continued supporting her. Sometimes we used to go and for monitoring हैन, so like के चाहिन्छ भनेर सोध्यो. So अहिले like I think our proud moment lies in the fact that now it's not just her that she kept the skills to, she started teaching other people in her community, and she's doing amazing work. त्यो कहिलेकाहीँ सुन्छ उसले जग्गा किन्यो यो भयो, and I think like those small stories is, I don't think it's our success stories, it's their success stories, which just makes us, I think, further carry our work. So for me, I truly look her as an inspiration, because त्यो community मा चाहिँ I'm sure she got support from a lot of people, but at the same time I'm sure there were a lot of drawbacks, there were a lot of things pulling her down पनि नि त. So त्यस्तो केसमा चाहिँ as a woman of this generation, I'm sure she had a lot of struggles, but amidst everything she chose to stick by what she believed in, and I think like we find her story really amazing, and there are a lot of Lakshmis, like really, and I think that really helps to keep us going.
And you mentioned challenges, so for someone to start any project here in Nepal, especially like for your case like Danfe and SAATH, what were some challenges and what kind of support you wish you had?
I'm not gonna lie when I say that it was all easy and breezy, and I think we still have so many challenges. I don't think नेपालमा चाहिँ सजिलो छ भनेर चाहिँ गर्नु हुँदैन, because we know we know the ground reality, but that should not stop you from doing it either. So हाम्रो challenges भनेको चाहिँ I think when we started, like मतलब development worker, my colleague was also development worker, so हाम्रो whole सोचाइ नै एकदमै development work oriented हुन्थ्यो कि when we ventured into business. So businessलाई बुझेको it's been few years, because I think business is very different from what a development work looks like. like I'm not saying एउटा राम्रो एउटा नराम्रो भन्ने होइन त्यसको आफ्नै अप्रोचहरू हुँदो रहेछ so I think to develop that have that clarity you will develop some clarity later as you go down the lane but you need to know where you headed रहेछ के एउटा भन्छ नि त्यो बिगर पिक्चरको भिजन भन्छ नि हामीलाई बच्चा बेलामा लाइफको एम्स हो जस्तै सो आई थिङ्क त्यो एउटा क्ल्यारिटी एन्ड यु क्यान अलवेज चुज टु टेक डिफ्रेन्ट रोड्स सो त्यसमा चाहिँ यही बाटो जानुपर्छ भन्ने चाहिँ छैन तर के गर्न मन छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ आई थिङ्क त्यो इज भेरी इम्पोर्टेन्ट एन्ड आई थिङ्क वान थिङ द्याट आई वुड डेफिनेटली वान्ट टु सेयर इज बिजनेसमा चाहिँ फाइनेन्सियल म्यानेजमेन्ट इज भेरी क्रुसियल इज भेरी की सो इफ यु डोन्ट वान्ट टु मेक मनी देन मेबी business should not be your thing so I think that should definitely be a driving force because this is something we realized later because we thought creating impact was the end goal I know the end goal but that was not the road okay the road was to make sales gain profit reach out to more clients you know so त्यो हो नि त business so if your business does not thrive you can be very passionate and driven about the impacts but you'll never get there so it's almost like you know हाम्रो भन्छ नि खाली पेटमा सोच्न सक्दैन something like that so it's like if you really want to create that ecosystem where Danfe or SAATH is doing good and well for the welfare of a lot of marginalized women. I think as a business you have to make money. If you're not making money, what are you going to do with just the idea of creating impact, right? So bholiko dinma, if we're able to grow our endowment fund, it only means that we're able to reach out to more women. So business garnu cha bhandekhi चाहिँ you might say that, oh, that's a very materialistic thought, but why not? If that's not the case, then why do you choose business, right? Because business is all about generating revenues, but the choices you make while doing the business is, you know, like ethical production or like making use of things that's more sustainable. So those are the choices that you can make as business. But last ma gaera चाहिँ पैसा पनि कमाउनु पर्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ I think team members मा त्यो reminders एकदमै चाहिन्छ, and that definitely will help you grow as a business, which means that you're able to create more impact. So it was a lesson learned, a little late, but I think now we've come to a point where we're very comfortable.
Definitely, because even for me, like, it's not very immediate, right? Like, to think of money first, it's always like, oh, you're thinking about money. Money and something good does not go along together, but it definitely can. And there's, I think I would say, a skillful interplay that's needed. And to teach financial management or for your organization, like, was there an advisor? Like, how did you learn the finances, or how is it being managed? Is there a team? Or
now we have a team, but back then because we were like doing things on our own, the development field, but say we were transitioning into this business world, which was completely different. So I think we learned a lot from our mistakes. But I don't think we can always afford to make mistakes all the time. Thought there was this gentle reminder every now and then that, you know, things can be a little different, but we sort of lacked that mentorship when we started the business, I would say. And you can definitely do with a mentor, you know, like हाम्रो कति बेलामा चाहिँ नेपालमा अलिकति चाहिँ अर्काको कुरा किन सुन्ने, हैन, like why do we need to bring our pain points to somebody else, a complete stranger भन्ने त्यो mindset छ नि त. So अलिकति हामीलाई I wouldn't say commandy, but something like let me do it on my own भन्ने हाम्रो mentality. I think we need to be open to sharing and learning, and that is what will help us grow, because there are a lot of people who've already taken that path. So maybe what we can do is learn from their mistakes, not to make the same mistakes. Nita. Your journey will always be your journey. Nobody's there to, you know, like guide you all the way through. But every once in a while, I'm sure they will help you realize that, oh, this is the right path, or this is a path that maybe you can skip. So त्यो हिसाबको mentorship is always nice. And I think later on, अहिले पनि we're very open to learning. Even at this stage of time, I think we need that openness. If you're like, म सबै कुरा आफै गर्छु भन्यो भनेदेखि चाहिँ अलिकति दुःख पाउँछ. So अहिले पनि we're reaching out to a lot of people, and we're always asking people and seeking their suggestions. But at the end of the day, you always make that choice as co-founders, but it's okay to you know sort of listen to somebody else's experience.
To always keep learning. And about like social entrepreneurship, or you as a woman entrepreneur too, what kind of support have you been receiving? Are there some networks that aspiring entrepreneurs can join?
I think त्यो यो network र you know it's very important because त्यसले चाहिँ support system चाहिँ create गर्दो रहेछ. So पहिला हामी एकदमै यो कुरामा चाहिँ you know like we were not very exposed that oh we need to meet people or like you know we need to get into some networks, but slowly we're exposing ourselves, which means that we're trying to create an ecosystem which is maybe bigger than what Danfe works is नि त. So त्यो हिसाबले women उसकोमा चाहिँ like NGO कोबाट चाहिँ हामी साथकोबाट पनि we're part of few organization network को छ भने त Danfeमा चाहिँ we have this global compact Nepal, so it's not alone for women entrepreneurs, but it's also promoting you know like sustainability SDGs in different companies. I think it's a very very beautiful platform where as businesses you're making a conscious effort. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ हामी गरिरहेछौँ भने अर्को चाहिँ what we do is like we try to meet up with people every once in a while, and what's really lacking Nepalma is you know like the conversation that we just have right now, we can have it with so many other women on the same table नि त. So त्यसले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ so we're not just talking about the problems and challenges. I think it's more about through our experiences what are the things that we can bring on the table to mitigate those challenges and way forward my ke huna sakcha, because sometimes it's nice to dwell in problems and challenges, but most of the times we should dwell more on what can be done. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ I think एउटा network form भयो भने पनि राम्रो हुन्छ. I'm sure there are a lot of networks, but so far अहिलेसम्म चाहिँ like GCN is one of the network that we're part of.
And so you've always been have you always been interested in sustainability? Like how did your journey in environmental sustainability like begin? Because I know Danfe and SAATH, they take part in a lot of like sustainable development goals. They touch a lot of it. Like what are some of those? Just do you,
जस्तै अब like yeah I've been a development worker, and I think अब sustainability को like especially in terms of fashion say I would be very honest with you. So I don't think I was you know like deliberately putting myself to be a very sustainable person back then, but it was after the conscious decision that we made when we tried to switch Danfe works me and move towards more natural fabrics. So that was the time you know like I actually started exploring a lot with sustainable fashion, and you know like how we can I think be better position ourselves, because lot of times I think Nepalma चाहिँ you know we like climate change is real, no doubt about that, but we see other problems more bigger okay? So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ climate change as something that's always been shunned off, you know it's like it's a problem, oh okay, so त्यो mentality हो नि त. तर यो कुरामा चाहिँ I think I won't say lack of awareness but internalization okay? Because a lot of times you hear people saying that oh it's not real, you know it's just the outside world is just faking everything and you know trying to say that oh we're in a problem and stuff, but I think we've seen it in our own eyes that it is getting real. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ I think as very independent, just as a individual पनि it's not that while growing up I was not a sustainable person, you know I was doing all sort of things, but I was not a conscious person either. I think I was very much into fast fashion back then, you know I used to buy a lot of clothes, but now like for someone like me who've been into development sector for such a long time, it took me this many years to get here नि त. So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ I think a lot of times conversations are very important, and the realization चाहिँ हो रहेछ भन्नु पर्ला.
So there's one more question I've been holding back. What does a development practitioner or a development worker really mean, and what are some things involved in that occupation?
So हाम्रो चाहिँ अब यो maybe it's a little fancy word. So technically भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ NGO मा काम गर्ने ING मा काम गर्ने भनेर भन्छ नि. So I think like any other profession, it's just that you act, personally how I define it is that you act at that as that linkage body between someone who have a lot of resources and someone maybe not enough resources, or maybe they are not able to realize the resources they have. So technically मैले भन्न खोज्दाखेरि चाहिँ अलिकति हार्सली भन्नुपर्दाखेरि haves र haves not भनेर हामीलाई सिकाउँछ, तर त्यसलाई redefine गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ that's how I would put it. So as a development practitioner, you are in the mid path where you connect both the ends.
Yeah.
Okay? So त्यो हिसाबले चाहिँ the bigger picture is always about creating impacts, but now how we see it is not just about creating impacts, it's about sustaining impacts. And I think that's the big challenge development sector faces
Yeah.
these days, because नेपालको कुरा गर्ने भनेदेखि स्किल्सको कमी छैन. If you go to like गाउँ like lot of times सिन्धुपाल्चोक जाँदाखेरि सिलाइ कटाइको तालिम नसिकेको मान्छे नै पाउँदैन कि. So it's like everybody has like 2 months को training or 3 months को training, but what was really lacking was training पाएपछि के हुन्छ, or the fact that was that training good enough or not to be marketed. So त्यसमा चाहिँ I think that's how we position ourselves, and it's not always a win-win situation, but I think at the same time it's work in progress, and yeah.
Wow, such a fascinating term, and the work is so important. Like link, I never thought of it.
I made you, yeah, that I think that's how I see it, but yeah.
Cool. We're now in towards the end, so तपाईँलाई के message दिनु मन छ? Like please do share. And I know a lot of viewers are waiting to hear your advice and your take.
Advice चाहिँ भन्दिनँ, but I think I had a great time being here and seeing you after like you won the Miss Nepal, and like I said earlier when I came to the show about how you are using your platform in your own ways to create that impact and awareness among people. I think you're doing amazing. So त्यही कुरा चाहिँ I think as a brand, as an enterprise, that's what we're doing. So if we all as individuals from our own level do our bit, that's when things will start happening. So कति कुराको लागि चाहिँ conscious effort पनि चाहिन्छ, but don't stress out yourself a lot where like you're consciously thinking about this is what I should do. त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति light heartedly लिएर maybe I can do this instead of that भन्ने हिसाबले गर्यो भनेदेखि चाहिँ so म जहिले नि भन्दाखेरि let's not try to change the entire closet. Let's maybe try introducing a piece of sustainable like ethical piece of clothing or like product, so that's how things happen. So एकदमै sustainability भनेर let's not like त्यसलाई एकदमै त्यो end नबनाऊँ कि. I think त्यो भनेको चाहिँ बिस्तारै unfold हुने कुरा हो. अनि नेपाल जस्तो ठाउँमा we need to respect the context. So sometimes like not everybody has an option, so let's try to create that option. Slow steady boy within, I think that is when it becomes more sustainable.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. So I'm going to ask one final question, a fun one. Tell the audience, what does your dog teach you every day in your life? And we'd love to follow more of Danfe and SAATH's journey, so please do end it with the Instagram and any social media handles of the organization.
That's a very interesting thing to wrap up with. I think what she actually teaches me is to live life as it comes, and I think she's very chilled about it. Like sometimes she doesn't even care I exist, so I think sometimes being a little indifferent and not putting yourself a lot of pressure, like just she has the most carefree life. So I think that's the thing that I would definitely keep on getting from her. And I think it's love that comes without any definition. That's the kind of love that I get from her. I don't understand wholly, but I'm happy that I do. And please feel free to follow Danfe Works. That's the handle on Instagram and Facebook. You can check out our website, danfeworks.com, and you can always message us with queries. Sometimes we might be a little late in answering, but we will get there. And I think what's really important is that we're also trying to create an ecosystem and a very thoughtful process where you can always be part of Danfe, but let's not put a lot of pressure. I think one day at a time is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kritishma Didi. This was really fun, and I'm glad to talk to a dog lover as well. And most of all, I think I learned a lot about having leniency and having patience, taking it step by step, and most importantly, having a kind heart that listens to every different communities out there. And I think that's beautiful.
Thank you so
So,
much.
all right, we're wrapping up this beautiful podcast. Stay tuned for more, and we have a beautiful gift from EcoSAATH that we'd like to give you. So let's end it with that. Hope this helps with your zero waste journey as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
EcoSAATH.
And don't forget to follow EcoSAATH. Their social media handles is at EcoSAATH in Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And stay tuned to learn more about Digo Pranali and my journey in Miss Nepal as well. The Instagram handles and TikTok and Facebook handles are at Sricha, and you can find Digo Pranali on Instagram at Digo Pranali. Thank you.